Yeah, those V speeds. I wonder what the VHLE speed is for this thing. Welcome to the Superpilotish channel. My name is Graham Wilson, and today I'll be talking to you not about highlighters, but I'll be talking about just some speeds that you have to know as a pilot, or you have to be able to reference as a pilot. I'll be talking about that in my basement. So, what is the V HLE speed? It's the speed of highlighter explosion. Just before I got on here, I took some notes. I made a couple little marks on here, and I never really used this highlighter. And it's just like, okay, I'll highlight this. This will be good to talk about. Yeah, page 2, da da da. Start doing this, and I'm like, wait a minute. This thing, I don't know. I got this highlighter because it's got like a liquid in it, almost like a paint type thing. So it's like, oh, that'll last forever. It won't dry out, which is true. But it was sitting upside down like this for, I don't know, months and months and months. And now I had to wash my hands down here. Like, I got pink out. And then, like, do I have any on my face or anything? So there we go. Highlighter explosion. I will not be using that. So we'll see what we can do. Yeah. So if you're, one of the things about flying an airplane is that, believe it or not, you need air going over the wings. Shocking. Yes. In order for it to go up in the air, you got to have it. It's going through the air. And if it's not going fast enough, it won't go through the air, right? Makes sense. If it's going too fast, you can have troubles. So the engineers over the years have decided that there's certain critical, important speeds that a pilot should know and should have access to in their. Every airplane has to have a manual for it, and so in there you can find out all your critical V speeds, as they call them. So everybody learns about these things. All right, we'll get out the old whiteboard right away. And when you're learning how to fly, they teach you, or I was teaching people. I do teach people. This is what you have to know. Now, the biggies that you have to know from memory on your flight test for a private pilot's license. Now, there's different levels of licensing. The bigger the plane, the more licenses you need for it. So we are going to talk about VX and VY. Pardon my sniffles. I have a bit of a runny nose today, I think. Winter time. Get me to the sun. I need some vitamin D. Yeah, so there we go. So we got our VX and VY. So everyone thinks of those. I always get those mixed up, even after all these years. So the VX is the speed that you fly your airplane at after you take off, or anytime where you want to get it's called the best angle of climb speed. And then the VY is the best rate of climb speed. So I always have to make a differentiation. Which one's which? I get them, flip-flopped. So in my morning, good morning, Shecky. In my mind, I think of it just kind of mathematically. Okay, so here we go. Now, remember way back in school, you had your little graphs, number lines. You got your x-axis, you got your y-axis. All right, something like that. You got your x-axis over here, you got your y-axis there. So if you're thinking about VX, I always think about, okay, along the x-axis here, we want the best angle of climb. You could use this if you have to get over maybe like a mountain range or an obstacle of some description, power lines. You would climb up at the speed that's been determined by the test pilots and the engineers. And so you want to have a really steep angle. So I always think about it. Here's your airplane flying up. And that's how I think about it, that it's shorter on the x-axis, VX. That's the way I think of it. And the other one, VY. Okay, once you got the X, then the VY. I just think about it, okay, I want to get way up to this Y as fast as possible. Because why? Because altitude is your friend. So you want to get, after you take off, you want to get up there as soon as you can. So If anything happens, you're further away from the ground. Oh, hey, Wrench. Welcome to the chat. So there's VX, VY, simple. There's another one, VA, which is the maneuvering speed, and that's a tricky one to kind of wrap your head around. A lot of people have a hard time, but it'd be on your written test and on your flight test. What the VA is your it's not the Fonzie speed. VA, that's your maneuvering speed, which is basically that's the speed where it has to do with your wing mostly, where the wing will stall before it breaks. So anything you'd prefer to stay under that speed, so that if you're making any full movements of the controls, mostly having to do with your wing, you want your wing to stall, not break. So there we go. That's what that is. And then you can get into that and talk a whole ground school lesson on that. That's what DH Pilot 1 that pops in here every once in a while. He was teaching ground school last night, so he was like, "Hey, Graham, why don't you talk about V speeds?" He was talking about that too. So there's that. And then I got this big list of speeds from Wikipedia. And, it just goes to show how Wikipedia is not exactly, I mean, it's okay for getting some information, but some of this stuff, it's like, I don't know, man. So, the Wikipedia, you'd probably be better off checking your ground school textbook rather than Wikipedia for these things. But, I mean, close enough for jazz. So there we go. And so the other thing I wanted to tell you there too is depending on what level of licensing you get, you'll have to know more and more of these certain speeds, or what they mean, or what they how they're derived, stuff like that. So I found for the private pilot license, the lowest level where you fly your buddies around, it's like, you got to know a few, and those are important, and you have to know them all the way up to flying the big jets. Then when you get to the commercial license, this is where you're getting paid to fly. You have to know more, and usually in that, now you're getting into things like the for multi-engine airplanes, because you're going to be flying a little bit bigger airplanes if you're doing it for a job, possibly, and they want to prepare you for that and license you for that. So if you got two engines, if one of them goes out on you, maybe it's not exactly the end of the world, but you got to know certain speeds. So I don't know. I don't have a multi-engine airplane here. I only got my KD-12X, which is single engine. But let's see. I wonder if I can use the KD-12X, and we'll just. It doesn't have a propeller on the front. We'll pretend there's like two engines on here. So what happens is if you have an engine failure after you take off, or maybe you're climbing or something like that, or even if you're just flying along straight and level, your engine, maybe you might have to shut it down because of while it's still kind of running, so you can feather the prop, and you don't want to blow up your engine, but your engine's going to quit on you, so you might as well shut it down and prepare for it rather than be surprised. So what happens is if you have a propeller over here and a propeller over here, the thrust is kind of going like that, and you're going along with even thrust on each wing. But if one of the engines fail, let's say it's this one here, the engine fails, so that one's not pulling you through the air anymore. It's only this one over here, and that will actually pull you. It'll create some yaw, as they say, and it'll kind of pull you around like that. But you want to go here, not over here or around in circles. What did I do here? I just hit something. Something funny. Comments. There we go. Oh, there we go. I just bumped my computer and something freaked me out. Yeah, so, all that yaw, you have to use the rudder to counteract that. And there's a certain speed where if you fly below that, your rudder doesn't have enough authority to keep you going straight and stuff, and then your one wing can stall and you're in trouble, and there's too much drag, and all kinds of weird bad stuff can happen. And that is called the what is that? I should know that. It's critical engine. VMC. That's it. Minimum control speed. So that's usually marked off as a red line on your airspeed indicator. So make sure you stay above your red line. If you do have an engine failure, there's also a little blue line on there, and that's your best rate of climb speed with one engine. So you stay at that blue line, and you'll be cool. You can still climb, albeit probably 100 feet a minute, not too much, but you'll be okay. And so, anyways, that's something you would want to know for your commercial test, and do some other stuff. And then once you start getting into your ATPL studying, then you have to know about what is a V1. You always see that in movies. You see V1 rotate. So yeah, okay. Well, I'll tell you what V1 is. V1. And that's the way it usually happens if you see any videos or cockpit videos. I always like watching all the airplane videos on YouTube and stuff. So if you got your V1, usually you're going to have your V1 like that. Oh, and then VR is rotate. Okay. V1, VR. They always say V1, rotate. Yeah. So V1, that means that, actually, I'll draw that out again. I get to draw a jet now. Pretty amazing. Ooh. Okay, so here I'm taking off. There we go. That's your runway right there. And okay, we got the runway. It'd be better if I was left-handed. I could just draw like that. But okay, maybe I got to scoot in here a bit more. My chair is in a different position, I guess. Yeah. Okay, so we got a runway here. And let's say we got let's draw a fine 747, the queen of the skies, the greatest 747 airplane with a bubble. Okay, that looks like a normal airplane. That's not a jet. Okay, that is like bad. Okay, well, I don't care. I was going to draw a bubble, but it should have been, that just looks like a regular airplane. Okay, so you're flying along, you give her full power, you got your full power, you're going down the runway, and then you're going to hit that V1 speed. So let's just say you hit the V1 speed right here. V1. Okay, there we go. You're going down the runway. Let's show some speed. Look at that artistic speed right there. And you get V1. So that means, okay, oh, I'm going to sneeze here too. I got the sniffles. Okay, maybe not. Okay, so yeah. So once you're at that speed, as a pilot, you're going. Okay, no matter what, engine failure, anything, you're going. V1, we're going to continue here. And there's different things that you can calculate depending on how long your runway is and stuff like that. But so if you have an engine failure back here, you can still jam on the brakes and stop. But if you have an engine failure here, you have enough speed that you can still continue and climb up with one engine. So there we go. That's what your V1 is. And then, so later on, you'll be going up here, and VR, you'll rotate there. So there we go. And then off you go. So V1 rotate, that's how that means. V1, we're going no matter what. And rotate, let's go. If your engine fails after that, same thing. You maintain your magical speed that you need to maintain and climb up and deal with your emergency up in the air. Come back around and land. Piece of cake. And yeah, so airplanes nowadays are pretty much designed that, big jets and even smaller turboprop planes where you can still take off with one engine. They got lots of horsepower there. You are good to go. So there's that. There's a whole bunch of other ones that I had to learn for my ATPL exam was, of course, this is the thing too, is you kind of forget. You learn all this stuff for the written test and then you forget it later. So, oh, Greg McNeely's here too. Hi, Greg. So, what do we got here? There's another one. There's like V1. Okay. There's also a V2. Takeoff safety speed. So, yeah, so there you go. So after V1, V2 is the speed at which the aircraft may safely climb with one engine inoperative. So there you go. So V1, we're going. Maybe you got an engine failure, then you fly off at V2. And if I'm not mistaken, a lot of the bigger jets, a lot of this stuff is like pretty automated, where they'll, like, depending on what's going on with the airplane, it'll show stuff on your glass cockpit on your little computer screen that you're flying there. So that's pretty cool. And then there's other ones too about what was it, VFE, when I was talking to landing gear. I was talking to DH Pilot One yesterday. It was like, what's that one for your maximum speed for lowering your landing gear? And I think that's VLE. And then I was checking it here today. I think I was right. Yeah, maximum landing gear extension speed. So that's VLE. So like the speeds that I'm telling you right now, they're all kind of like critical. They have to be for your plane to be certified by the government and everything. The flight, the test pilot has to go and find all these speeds. So you can't put down your flaps if you're going. Think about this: if you're in your Concorde and you're going Mach 2, can you put down your flaps? No, they'll just rip off. You're going too fast. So there's a certain speed where they're designed and they won't be damaged. Same with your landing gear, or some landing gear comes down. Say you're flying through the air like this. Then some landing gear, they'll retract up this way. Other landing gear might retract up forward. So if you got too much air pushing it back, the hydraulics might not be strong enough to bring it up forward. They usually don't do it that way, but I think there's some that do that. Or even still, there's little fairings and things on there that can rip off if you're going too fast. So so there's a certain speed that you get maximum flap extension speed, and then maximum landing gear extension speed. Fun stuff. Here we go. And these are all things that you have to know. And probably like on your written test for your commercial license, you would definitely have something to do with your flap extension speed, your gear extension speed, single engine operations with a twin engine plane after an engine failure. ATPL stuff, same thing with that. And then they even get into like how far. So you're in the middle of the Atlantic and you have an engine failure. Can you continue do you have enough fuel to continue to your destination, or do you got to turn around? Or there's all this other weird those weird stuff you got to learn as a pilot. And so there's some of the little critical V speeds, but if you go on Wikipedia, it's like I kind of printed it out here. You got that 1, 2, 3. Now these are kind of bonus, more engineering V speeds, and so 3.5 pages of all these speeds and definitions. It's quite a bit to know. You don't have to know all of it, but that's the whole thing about when you're learning how to fly a plane is that you have to know what's important. There's certain things you have to memorize. That's all there is to it. If you ever do want to learn how to fly a plane, you must memorize some things. A lot of people, they say, I just can't memorize things. I get kind of the general idea, then I figure it out from there. Well, if your engine fails, you have to know the speed right away, or where to look on the airspeed indicator. You have to memorize. That's what I need to do. There's I know the plane goes through the air at this certain speed, and the angle of the wing is critical too. Well, now you're in the trees. Not good. So you do have to actually memorize things. And everybody is capable of memorizing stuff. It just takes repetition. Some people can memorize things better than others. Actually, come to think of it, I found that actors, I was asking, I worked on a TV set once, and I was asking the actors, it's like they get a script and they just go home, memorize it, boom, and they can do the scene the next day. And I'm like, boy, that'd take me forever to learn how to memorize all those lines and going back and forth. And but the actors were telling me, a few of them, that it's just kind of one of those skills you learn as an actor, is that the more you memorize the lines, then it just gets easier. And some actors were, after a few years, they're very good at it. So that's why they get the big bucks. So or they look really cool. Good looking guys, hot chicks. Yeah, you get lots of money. Who cares about the lines? Actually, that's what they have little in mic. That's a little cheat for some of the actors if they're getting a little bit older and they're kind of losing their mind. Yeah, they'll have someone with a little earpiece in there, and someone will be telling them their lines, and then I know one particular actor that was. I heard that's what they were doing on the set. When I was in that, and he's like, "Really?" He's like, "Oh yeah, he fried his brain on drugs years ago. He's a mess." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And they just feed him lines. And I saw the movie that he made afterwards on TV, or you know, checked out the movie that they made there, and it's like, wow, who would he was such a good actor, you couldn't even tell it. He was getting hints in his little in his earphone there. So, anyways, yak yak yak, blah blah blah. It's the weekend. Okay. Let's see if we got any questions or anything like that. Yeah, I didn't really know what to talk about. So, well, thanks for the topic, anyways. There, DH Pilot One, and okay. What else we got here? Shecky is just hanging out, sipping coffee. Very nice. Yeah, you know what, Rich? So apparently, talking about how I got my speeds off of Wikipedia there, he was a Wikipedia editor once, but every time I made a change, I'd support it on the talk page carefully, but someone would remove my change. Yeah, man, I remember back in the wild and woolly days of Wikipedia around 2005. Anyone could just go in there, and so I did that lots of times, just putting funny jokes and stuff in there, and then someone would wipe it out. But yeah, and then it's pretty much somebody somewhere is editing that. I don't know who or why or whatever, but it's like I figure like well, who are you to tell me what's right or wrong? And the thing about Wikipedia too is I've tried doing some things like you were talking about there, Wrench, and so even like you have to have your points supported by a credible source, which means like, okay, it has to be from a TV clip, from the news. It has to be from a newspaper. It could be some rag, some local piece of crap newspaper that the local editor doesn't like the mayor, so he puts in a bunch of stuff in there. It's bad about the mayor. Oh, see, it's bad. It's from a newspaper. No, it's just that guy hates the mayor. It's like in the whatever I don't know, small town Tribune. So yeah, it's Wikipedia is basically a mirror of what the media is these days. Not like the good old days, I tell you. So, anyways, things change. Just keep that in mind. That's why you can't really use Wikipedia on any I don't know, university papers and stuff like that. What do we got here? Okay. I think you meant have. Have you ever had an engine failure? How many hours do I have to fly to do that? I've never had an engine failure. I've been quite lucky about that. Yeah, I don't know. What have I had? The only, failures, I've had quite a few flat tires on landing. As far as like emergencies and stuff like that, people always ask me, "Oh, have you ever been scared?" I'd say probably the scariest time is coming back to the airport and starting to pick up ice on the plane. That's a little scary. And the visibility gets pretty crap. And it's like, ooh, I'd rather be on the ground right now. This is not fun. I think I believe I did say that to myself. This is not fun. And I think there's a lot of other expletives when I noticed that, ooh, ice is building up on the strut and the wing there, and the wheel. Ooh. Hopefully I'll get on the ground soon. So there's that. So actually, if you are picking up ice, that's considered an emergency. You can tell air traffic control about that, and they'll get you on the ground as soon as possible. Because it is, if your plane is not certified for ice flight into known icing conditions and you're picking up ice, that's an emergency. Get on the ground, get a priority, declare the emergency. And yeah, so what else? Engine failure? No. Had a intermittent alternator, so that would kind of kick out on me. So I knew battery's not going to be charging up here, but I wasn't too far away from the airport. So luckily, knock on wood, we got double knock on wood, no engine failures yet. So okay. All right, here we go. Okay, so that is about it. Yes, Shecky, you have a wonderful weekend too. We are, what day is today? Today is Friday. Yeah. Still got the sniffles. Oh, but I don't know. Did I tell you guys? I probably not. I think it was yesterday. I just got my new little lavalier mic for my phone. So I think I'm gonna try. I don't know. I did a little experiment down here to see how the sound works, and that little mic does sound better than the one that's in the phone. So I might throw up a video. I don't know, this weekend or something like that, where I'll get my my selfie stick and just start kind of walking around and do something. Might go to the airport and do some plane spotting, but I don't know who's flying today. It's, I don't know, not the greatest weather out there. But okay, oh well, that's me talking out loud. But somehow I managed to get 26 minutes in so far. So thanks for sticking around. And okay, today is Friday, so I'll be back on Monday because I do this Monday, Wednesday, Friday at noon Eastern. And you guys have a great weekend and everything like that. I'll try to fix my sniffles, and there we go. Have a great weekend. Thank you for watching. Bye.